Hello Battle Cats players, my name is Chance and welcome to my guide. Today we are actually covering one of my favorite cats in the game. As I'm sure you might have guessed by the thumbnail, the writing on screen, or the title of the video, today we're taking a look at Delinquent Cat. Delinquent Cat is a super rare cat that is available through rare cat capsules. And it is my hope, as always, that throughout the course of this video and going over Delinquent Cat's evolutions, performance, use cases and strategies, as well as cat combos and talents, you can make a more informed decision as to how to fit this cat into your lineup, if at all, and as to how far you wish to invest into him should you unlock him. So without further ado, let's first take a look at his evolutionary line. His line, of course, starts with Delinquent Cat himself, whose description reads, known as the Bancho of school cats, might freeze floating enemies, area attack. Then at level 10 he will evolve into Angry Delinquent Cat, whose description becomes, throwing a fit of rage because his dad ate his ice cream that was in the fridge, might freeze floating enemies, area attack. And then after achieving level 30 and spending some Catfruit and XP, he will become Ultra Delinquent Cat. In his true form, his description becomes a naughty cat known as the King of the Angry Fist. Loves Pachinko, trades his winnings for ice cream, might freeze floating / relics, area attack. This is the really overall template for the super rare cats. There's nothing really too exciting. We will discuss the Catfruit needed to evolve him a little bit later on. But until then, yeah, that is what it is. Now that you have a good grasp on his evolutionary line, let's take a look at his overall performance. Firstly, Delinquent Cat is considered to be a crowd controller as well as a mid-ranger. Crowd controllers being units that are used to inflict status effects or knock back enemies, and a mid-ranger being anyone with a range of 250 to 399. Under pros, he has a fast attack rate and animation, area attack, and high DPS in his evolved and true form. And then under cons, mediocre range, long recharge time, and low proc chance. As far as other traits go, he has a 16% chance to freeze floating enemies in all of his forms, a 16% chance to freeze floating and relic enemies in his true form, immunity to freeze for evolved and true form, immunity to curse for true form, and multi-hit in all forms. And on paper, he actually looks kinda good. However, as we will discuss in a little bit, looks can be a touch deceiving. Let's now check out some gameplay and discuss strategy and use cases for Delinquent Cat. Right out of the gate, let's touch on cost. In Chapter 1, this unit will cost 1,000 cents, Chapter 2, 1,500 cents, and Chapter 3, 2,000. So right out of the gate, Delinquent Cat actually has fairly high health, decent range, and high DPS. This combined with the ability to freeze floating enemies and multi-hit, which in turn increases the activation chance of said freeze, and then factor in that a lot of the bosses you're going to be dealing with in early stages are floating and typically have short range, this cat can actually see some pretty interesting uses. Being able to take on a couple of the Cyclones, Bun Bun, and the Face variants, at least assuming he's decently leveled. However, after early game, much like in the case of Sanzo Cat, who we covered in a previous video, his usefulness really does fall off. Not really because of anything to do with him inherently, but more so to do with the other cats in the game. Cameraman Cat stacking is kind of the meta currently, at least, and is likely to be for quite some time, and it out DPS's the use of Delinquent Cat. And Sanzo as well as Necro-Dancer Cat kind of remove him out of the equation as far as anti-floating or crowd controllers are concerned. Really the biggest thing that holds back Delinquent Cat is his spam ability. If his cooldown was much shorter, I could actually see him having a pretty viable place in the current meta. However, seeing as that's not the case, it is what it is. And as far as his true form goes, it's not really a saving grace to any real capacity. Unfortunately, the added ability to freeze relics sounds good in theory, and on paper I'm sure it works wonderfully. The issue he starts running into at this point, however, is that the relic bosses, the ones that you actually want to freeze, are going to outrange him. So the odds of him getting attack off at all will be fairly slim at best. That, alongside the fact that to actually true form him you need to be pretty far into the game, he just doesn't see a lot of use. Even with all of that being said, he is still one of my favorite cats in the game, if for no other reason than stylistically. He is very fun to use, and he is very fun to revisit previous stages with, as he's just fun to play with. You notice when he's attacking, he makes a significant difference on the field, and he's just fun. Like, that's all there really is to say about him. He's a fun unit. However, because of the way his mechanics work and the way his stats end up panning out, he's just not viable as far as the current meta is concerned, and that's kind of upsetting. Granted, he has talents, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but as far as his normal, evolved, and true form go, there really isn't a lot of viable use for him outside of the very early game. Now then, let's quickly touch on his available cat combos. Currently he only has one, that being Cat High, which is a weaken effect up of the small variety. It involves Banner Cat, Delinquent Cat, and Maiden Cat, and increases weaken duration by 10%. On the whole, I'm actually not a big fan of this cat combo. If it was a 2-cat combo, then I could see its viability, but 3 cats for a small effect, and especially a weaken effect, I don't know, man. If it was freeze, sure. If it was slow, maybe. But weaken, like, come on, I don't know. 3 cats for a weaken a cat combo just don't make any sense. Like, at least make it a medium, then we can talk. Now let's quickly touch on his Catfruit here. So to true form Delinquent Cat, you'll need 4 green Catfruit, which is available through the growing green stage every Monday, 1 purple Catfruit from the growing purple stage every Tuesday, 1 red Catfruit from the growing red level every Wednesday, and 1 yellow Catfruit from the growing yellow level every Friday. And all of that's fine and dandy, but the real nail in the coffin is he also needs 1 Elder Catfruit. And this Catfruit, well, can be obtained from the growing strange stage on all days of the week, but this only becomes available after completing Stories of Legend. And since you have the potential of getting this cat so dang early in the game, you will likely forget about him by the time you're completing Stories of Legend. It's so, I don't know why Ponos did this. It makes 0 sense to me, but whatever. You can also get this Catfruit on floor 43 and 47 of the Heavenly Tower, which will drop the seed and fruit respectively, and floor 10 and 20 of the Infernal Tower, but once again, that's so late into the game, like, it doesn't make any sense. And in all fairness, there are just better things to spend your Catfruit on, certainly your Elder Catfruit, so I don't know, I don't think it's worth it, but it is a fun unit to use. At the very least, it's a very satisfying unit, but I don't know, that's like a personal preference thing, really, at the end of the day. Now then, I'm going to flash a couple graphs and charts on screen pertaining to the stats of Delinquent Cat, and while I'm doing that, I'm just going to read out his trivia. Delinquent Cat is a direct reference to Jotaro Kujo from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Jotaro debuted as a delinquent, and they both share a similar attire. His animation is identical to how Jotaro uses his stand, Star Platinum. By the way, pour one out for Iggy boys. In any case, after the events of Stardust Crusaders, Jotaro's stand can stop time for 2 seconds, just like how Delinquent Cat can freeze floating enemies for 2 seconds. Also during Stardust Crusaders, Jotaro Kujo was able to move in spite of Dio freezing time, which is referenced by Angry Delinquent Cat's immunity to freeze. While Jotaro Kujo is undoubtedly the main inspiration for his design, Angry Delinquent Cat could also be a reference to Masami Iwaki from Dokaben, whose typical look includes a student cap that meshes with his hair and a 2-leaf twig in his mouth. Ultra Delinquent Cat's Japanese name, Us Nako Bancho, or Yes Sir Bancho Cat, is a reference to Us Pancho, a Pachislo machine series. One of its characters, Kanju Todoroki, is a Jotaro lookalike with long hair similar to that of Ultra Delinquent Cat's stand. Ultra Delinquent Cat's description even mentions Pachinko. He is one of the many cats who were given multi-hit in version 6.0. Prior to the Battle Cat's English version 3.6, Delinquent Cat's name was misspelled to Deliquent Cat. And in the Battle Cats Pop series, Angry Delinquent Cat is called Brawler Cat. And now time for the part of the show where we talk about his talents. First up, we have Attack Up, which adds 5% attack power at 67 health, and it increases by 5% per level up to level 50 for a total NP cost of 165. Then Savage Blow, which adds a 1% chance to perform a Savage Blow, which is 3 times damage, and this is improved by 1% per level up to 10% for a total NP cost of 165. Next is Resist Weaken, which reduces weaken duration by 16% and improves by 6% per level up to level 70. for a total NP cost of 125. And then you have the defense buff and attack buff, which increase the respective traits by 2% per level up to level 20 for a total NP cost of 125 each. While in my heart of heart, I consider these all to be valid JoJo references, unfortunately, none of them are really that great. The only real exception, I suppose, being the Savage Blows in conjunction with the attack buff. Well, that's really about it. By the time you're actually able to invest into his talents, his base stats just aren't survivable enough. So the odds of you being able to take advantage on attack up is basically zero because things are just going to be doing too much damage. Resist Weaken is fine as a reference, but it's kind of meaningless as far as an actual stat goes. If it was immunity to Weaken, then maybe, but just to resist it, I just don't think it makes any sense. So all you can really do is just heavily invest into DPS, that being Savage Blows and attack buff. It is worth noting, but that because he has multi-attack, that's more opportunities for Savage Blows to proc. However, at a 10% chance, it's still not that great. I really am disappointed by this cat because it's obvious whoever designed him took a lot of time and care into it, but unfortunately the way he works as an actual unit is just not that great. And the insult to injury is that Elder Catfruit. It makes no sense to me why they decided to do that, but whatever. At the end of the day, I personally still enjoy using him, despite the fact he is suboptimal, and on more dangerous stages I can't risk bringing him along. But if I'm grinding on stages and time really isn't a big factor, sure, I'll throw him in every once in a while, but that's really the extent of his uses. While his overall DPS in theory can be great, it's one of those things where compared with Uber units and units that actually specialize in DPS, I don't know, it just kind of falls off. Maybe I'm wrong on this, maybe you guys disagree, let me know down beneath if you do. Now let's move on to the fun bit where I get to show you some of my favorite subscribers. Let me introduce you to the first time currently in this series Cat Game Player, although he will be reappearing throughout, and the oh-so-reliable I'm Freaking Stupid. Both of these guys, funny enough, are Battle Cats content creators, so be sure to check them out. Cat Game Player writing, "Welp, time to write an entire essay. In my opinion, Delinquent Cat is a bit too subpar to be usable. In early game, he might have some minimal usage with his damage, but you unlock many more options that are just cheaper and more versatile than him. In mid-game, he falls off due to Sanzo, Necro, and Octo. His true form can't be unlocked before beating Stories of Legend, so his talents are locked too. His relic niche is only really usable against Oldhorn, as other relics outrange him and aren't relevant. His talents don't even come close to saving him, and there are just so many better options. His procs are too low, 48% per cycle is not worth it for the cost and cooldown. Also, the freeze immune is a nice reference, but has minimal competent usage. And I'm Freaking Stupid just says meh, 5 out of 10. I kind of agree with both of these guys. Although, personal feelings aside, objectively, they're both kind of correct. This is, at its core, a subpar unit. However fun it might be to use, it gets outclassed very early on by units that aren't that rare, so I'm happy to see that at least 2 people echo my sentiments. And if you would like to be featured in a video like these 2 were, be sure to post a comment in the communities section on the relevant cat, and I'll be sure to add it. Just bear in mind that naturally I record these videos a fair bit before I post them. As a result, I might not be able to read yours out, but I'll do my best to edit it in prior to its publishing. And that does about wrap up our video on Delinquent Cat. If I missed anything, misrepresented anything, or if there's anything more to add, please feel free to let me know down in the comments beneath. And don't forget that Cat God demands you like and subscribe. Either that or he's going to keep cursing your gacha rolls. But in all seriousness, I do really appreciate everyone who's liked and subscribed until this point. Definitely keeps me motivated to keep making these videos. And I am aware that they're not super helpful for the more experienced players, but to the newer ones, I like to think it makes a fair bit of difference. So thank you so much for watching until this point. I certainly appreciate it. And until next time, I'll talk to you soon.